Welcome to Learning Strategies Part 2, Do the Reading. Throughout this video and those of this series, we'll be referring back to Sandra McGuire's list of 10 metacognitive strategies as featured in her book, Teach Students How to Learn. But here we'll be looking at certain specific strategies that we use with students and as part of the UNIV curriculum. We'll also be looking at how these strategies led to the development of tools that we promote with the concept of the study cycle. Just as a review, the study cycle can be used in just about every college course you'll ever take. Students cycle through these 4 phases continuously throughout the semester, including doing the reading, taking lecture notes in class, actively studying, and assessing their learning. In this video, we'll be talking about the first phase of the study cycle, doing the reading. The internet is full of memes about students not doing the reading, so even if you don't have any experience with teaching yet, you know from your own undergraduate career how common this phenomenon is. The short answer is that students don't do the reading because they don't understand it's expected. They don't know how important this is to their success in the course, and they don't know how to navigate college-level texts. That's where we come in. By the time instructor training is over, you'll be tired of my constant reminding that familiar does not mean obvious. They aren't the same thing. We know how to read a college textbook, and so we tend to assume that our students do too. We know that the mention of chapters on a syllabus infers that reading is expected, but our students don't. This is the first small step we need to get our students to take. Here's how. When I present this exercise to a student, I'll pull up the slides in my office and ask them to read this text. Most of them can do so. Well, of course they can. It simply has all of the E's removed, and most of our students speak English as their first language. That alone provides enough background knowledge for them to be able to fill in all the blanks. When I've asked students to read this text, I'll let them struggle through the first line or two depending on how well it's going for them. However, by the end of the second line, I flip to the next slide and state, your professor has already moved on in the lecture. You are only able to decode less than half the material, and how much of that do you even recall? This exercise really makes our case for why students must do the reading. A student who attempts to learn technical course material only from lecture notes or from instructor-provided slides won't be able to fill in those blanks like they probably could with the first selection of text. For unfamiliar subjects, students have nothing with which they can fill in those blanks, much like the second selection. This is what it looks like to go into a lecture with no background knowledge of what the professor will be lecturing on. Remember how I mentioned in the last video that there'd be 20 reasons why students don't get the book? Well, here are the top 4, along with all the reasons why they should. Keep in mind also that a student who cannot easily show you their syllabus for whichever course is giving them trouble has just shown you a big hint as to where that trouble starts. I know that sometimes an instructor will, out of concern for students' financial well-being, say they don't have to buy the book. However, that statement is usually followed up with ideas on how to get their hands on the material without paying crazy textbook prices. No, you don't have to buy the book, but that doesn't mean you don't need the material that's in the book. Similarly, sometimes instructors decide that they've done their due diligence by putting chapters on the syllabus. That's the same thing as assigning the reading, right? Unfortunately for many students, especially those who are first generation, that's not the case. Did the instructor say that all exam questions would come from the notes? Well, maybe. So now that I've hopefully convinced you of the importance of doing the reading, let's talk about how students should be doing the reading. That is, what steps should they take in the process of the activity that we call doing the reading. It all begins with a pre-read. This activity gives your brain something of an outline to fill in when it's time to do the actual reading for comprehension. Skim over the headings, note the charts, graphics, the pullouts, and the margin. Now come up with a few questions that you think this text is going to answer for you. Not only will this keep you focused on what you're reading, staying more engaged with the text, but you'll also find yourself evaluating what you read as you read it.
Summarizing and paraphrasing as you read does a couple of things for us. It allows us to check our understanding of the material, and it helps build new understanding of previous concepts as we move through the text. Reflective note-taking is a big part of the previous point. Summarizing and synthesizing go hand in hand. If you jot down the questions or unfamiliar words as you come to them, then you can use that as a kind of anchor point while moving forward. I always tell students to bring their reading notes to class. They can add to them based on the concepts or the points that the instructor emphasizes. They can clarify any questions they didn't resolve during the reading, and they also have some prepared comments that they can use to add to the class discussion. It's important to note, rereading the text or skimming notes is the absolute least effective thing you can do. That's okay. In the next video of this series, we're going to be talking about learning about the ways that students can use their notes to study effectively.
Great job, here you are. You're now ready to move on to part 3 of the Learning Strategies and Studies cycle. The next short video will take you through the second step in the study cycle. That's going to class and taking notes. See you there.